Dear Father Simon and the Faculty of Forgiveness, my confession is about an incident that happened a few years ago in a large anonymous cathedral city in England. I'm trying to think of any anonymous cathedral cities, but anyway, at a rather prestigious public art gallery where I was employed as a floor walker. This is basically me moving around the different rooms, answering questions about the various artworks, offering insights into the different artistic processes, being a point of reference for exhibitions, but mainly I was giving directions to the toilets and stopping people parking themselves down and having a picnic. In an art gallery, yes, more often than you'd like to imagine.
Wow.
Take a piece, sit down in the middle of the floor. Anyway, I digress, says Major Q. The gallery was on 2 floors, and I had to walk between the 2 and into the various gallery rooms. I was wandering aimlessly around the upper floor one afternoon when I was approached by a smartly dressed, middle-aged couple. Simon, you'll need an upper-class accent at this point.
Good. Good.
I don't know where I'm going to trick this one from.
How on earth? Yeah.
Excuse me, says a rather well-spoken person. One of your exhibits downstairs has a missed information panel. It's all missing. It should be there. There's a space. Can you do something? This needed rectifying quickly, so I immediately sprang into action. Right, if you'd like to show me the work it's missing from, I can sort something out, I said to the man. I followed them downstairs, where they stopped at the bottom and pointed. There, you see, said the woman, who was also posh.
Yeah.
And spoke in a very, very similar way to her husband. There, you see, it's missing. I looked at the artistic work that was being pointed out on the wall. This one, you're sure? Yes, this one. We've looked for the information panel. It's obviously missing. Now, this happens occasionally. The panels next to the work come off and have to be found or replaced. However, at this point, I thought that this couple must be having a laugh at my expense because what they were pointing at on the wall was a fire hose.
Yes!
Oh, well,
it is.
Major Q says, well, ho, let's make fun of the glorified security guard with our superior intellects and artistic appreciations. Right, I thought, 2 can play at this game. Yes. Well, I see. Thank you very much for pointing it out, and I hope it hasn't detracted too much from your visit today. And with that, I imagine them wandering off, sniggering and regaling their posh friends over cocktails at dinner parties, the story of their clever little prank with their hoi polloi. Well, Snooty Man, as he'd suddenly appeared to me, obviously hadn't finished making fun, and snootily said, if you've worked here for some time, you should be able to tell us something about this work, I should imagine. Now, when I started this job, I was told in no uncertain terms to be courteous, honest, not to flannel about things I wasn't sure of, find out information about things I didn't know about from my superiors, and never ever lie. Well, I looked at Snooty Man, and I looked at Snooty Woman, and something snapped. All my carefully adhered to rules and regulations went out of the window. I smiled sweetly. Yes, I said, it's a Van Kleist. And this is a mixed media installation piece called Water Serpent. A look of confusion came over them both, as I'd obviously spoilt their jolly jape. Van Kleist? Yes, I said, Dutch, little-known postmodernist minimalist from the Low Countries, specialising in installation pieces. This was all blurting out, I don't know quite from where. Although I did hang out with art students when I was at college many, many years ago. It might be that this is where the false and pretentious-sounding load of information came from. There is, of course, no such artist as Van Kleist. I made the name up off the top of my head. I then went on to say things about his early years growing up in the flatlands of Frisia with his siblings, the harsh, dull weather coming from the North Sea, influencing his style, and lots of other things I was making up on the spot. I watched as they both leant in closer to have a look at the fire hose, and it dawned on me that they weren't actually taking the mickey out of me at all. They genuinely thought they were looking at an art piece. Snooty Man did that annoying beard-strokey thing to show that he was thinking. He turned to Snooty Woman, pointed at the polished brass water valve that I'd been polishing the previous day, and said, You can see where he's turned the mundane into the evocative.
Yes!
Yes, she answered, standing back to have a better look, folding her arms. They both continued to stand and appreciate the fire hose for some time, pointing and ing at each other. Snooty Woman turned to me and, looking a bit emotional, said, It's extremely evocative, isn't it? In my head, I'm shouting, it's a fire hose! It's evocative of being a fire hose! What I actually said was, quietly and reverentially, yes, it really is evocative, isn't it? And we stood there in silence looking at Water Serpent, trying to understand the complexities of the Dutch mind that had come up with such a thought-provoking piece of artwork. Snooty Man turned back to me. Do you have any other Van Kleists? He asked. Rumbled. Maybe not. No, not here. He's very popular in the Midlands, though, I replied. Well, we'll keep an eye out for them. Very interesting. Thank you very much for all your help, young man. He shook my hand and wandered off further into the gallery, leaving shortly afterwards. Well, I don't need forgiveness from Mr. and Mrs. Snooty. They probably had a laugh over it later when they found out the truth. I also don't ask forgiveness from the gallery, as they got a good anecdote to tell. I do, however, ask forgiveness from people convinced that they've actually seen Van Kleists, because, as I told this story to friends, it took on a life of its own. If they are somewhere and they see something like a mop, or a bucket left out, a fire extinguisher in an odd place, or some ordinary things out of place, they tell people, oh, look, a Van Kleist. You can see where he's turned the mundane into the evocative.
Yes, he has.
And they proceed to go on about him. He's now even got his own Facebook page. And I looked that up before we came on.
Really?
And Van Kleist does have his own Facebook page, which is full of where you can see photographs where they've turned the mundane into the evocative.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try that out when I get home. Look, instead of just pointing at the dustpan and brush. Oh, look, it's a Van Kleist. Major Q needs some forgiveness from Sister Bobby.
Oh, what a great story. I love that. There is beauty in the everyday, of course, but we're so used to seeing it, we ignore it or we don't notice it, don't we? I mean, look at Matt.
He's beautiful.
You know, he's here every day.
Every
and
day.
sometimes we need a reminder that
Yes.
he's a good thing. I love this. Actually, I don't blame you in lots of ways for kind of having fun with it. But there's one thing I was worried about. You'd never know if that wasn't a distraction, because you were the security guard and they took you. You were up on the
you
upper
think there was
floor.
a robbery going on
Well, I'm
somewhere?
just saying that my word of warning is there could have been something happening
yeah.
downstairs while they took you away. So be careful with how you're distracted, because they might have been having more fun with you. Just don't know, do we?
Matt loves it. You're forgiven?
No, I just to say is I'm going to Van Kleist everywhere, I think.
Yes, that's true. The world is full of Van Kleists.
Forgiven,
Matt?
by the way.
Yes, I have to say this confession plays to every prejudice I've got
course it
about
does.
modern art. I know my wife is going to be listening at home, who has a greater appreciation for art than I do, and basically hates going around galleries with me.
I
because
would as well.
What on earth is this? This is not. No, it's not. The audacity of hope. No, it's not.
It's a Van Kleist.
Pointing at a light switch. What's that then? I'll pay. Put a yellow dot on it. $3,000. So yes, I'm going to forgive, obviously, because yes, this is pretty Van Kleist. How many of them have we seen? Goodness me. Yes.